In Chapter 10, we begin our study of user interface design. A user interface is much more than just a collection of screens. It's a primary way that users interact with a software system. And a well-designed interface allows us to accomplish tasks efficiently with minimal confusion. A poorly designed interface can make even an excellent software system frustrating to use. So over the next several weeks, you'll apply these design principles by creating navigation diagrams, storyboards, and mock-ups that will prepare you to develop the user interface section of your final SRS. Good interface organizes information into logical areas. Users should immediately recognize where to look for navigation, where to enter information, and where to find commands. Most modern applications follow familiar conventions, such as placing navigation along the top or the left-hand side of the screen. When interfaces follow the common layouts, users spend less time learning the software and more time completing their tasks. So, related information should be grouped together. Users naturally assume that controls placed close together are related. For example, shipping information and billing information should appear in separate sections of an online checkout page. Good grouping reduces confusion and helps users process information more quickly. Users should always know where they are, what information they're viewing, and what they can do next. A good interface provides context through page titles, breadcrumbs, progress indicators, highlighted menu selections, and descriptive headings. A breadcrumb is a navigation aid that shows the user where they are within a website or application and allows them to quickly navigate back to previous levels. The term breadcrumb comes from Hansel and Gretel fairy tale, where they used breadcrumbs to mark a path. So home, bathtubs, showers, and whirlpool tubs is a breadcrumb. If the user decides that they don't want showers and whirlpool tubs, they can click bath or even home to go back instantly instead of repeatedly clicking the back button. Never make users guess where they are in an application. A well-designed interface should always provide clear context and intuitive navigation. Another design principle is avoiding clutter. A crowded interface increases cognitive load and makes it difficult for users to locate information. White space is not wasted space. It improves readability and helps direct attention to the important controls. So text size has a significant impact on readability. If it's too small, it becomes difficult to read. If it's too large, it reduces the amount of information visible on a screen. Different text sizes should communicate hierarchy, such as headings, subheadings, and body text. Fonts should improve readability rather than draw attention to themselves. Can you tell what either one of these things are saying? If you would like to know, send me a message. Serif fonts, like Times New Roman, are easier to read in printed documents. Sans serif fonts, like Arial and Helvetica, generally display more clearly on computer screens. You want to limit the number of fonts used in an interface to maintain consistency. Color affects readability as much as aesthetics. High contrast, such as black text on white background, is generally easier to read. But designers also have to consider users with color vision deficiencies. This first link is a color vision test. This second link is a very fascinating view of the types of color blindness and what people may see. Scroll to the middle of the front page for an example of what they may see. And since my son is colorblind in the red range, I have an app called CV Simulator. So given that roughly 8% of men and about 0.5% of women are colorblind, never rely solely on color to convey important information. Use labels, icons, or patterns as additional indicators. Colors influence how users feel about an application. For example, blue often communicates trust and professionalism, while red attracts attention and may indicate warnings or errors. These associations can reinforce the application's purpose when used appropriately. Color meanings vary across cultures. A color that conveys success or celebration in one country may have a completely different meaning somewhere else. This is an example of what the color red might communicate in different countries. And we see some of the same cultural differences for the color blue. And the color green. The color yellow. And the color purple. So if software is going to be used internationally, designers should consider cultural expectations when selecting color schemes. Another design principle aesthetic is patterns, because patterns can add visual interest and reinforce a theme or brand identity, but they should also be used sparingly. If a user remembers the background more than the content, the pattern is doing too much. The purpose of a pattern is to strengthen the overall design, not compete with the content. So avoid busy backgrounds or repeating patterns that make text difficult to read or that distract the users from completing their tasks. In particular, pattern backgrounds on web pages should generally be avoided because they reduce readability and can overwhelm the interface. But when patterns are used, they should be subtle, consistent, and support the message rather than becoming the focus of the design. A clean, simple background almost always provides a better user experience than a decorative one. User's experience, or UX, considers the user's overall interaction with the system. The interface should not only function correctly, but should also be intuitive, efficient, and enjoyable to use. You can see the progression of the expected user skill level. A good UX minimizes frustration, recognizes the skill level of its intended user, and helps them accomplish their goals with confidence. Consistency is one of the most important interface design principles. Similar actions should always produce similar results. Terminology, colors, fonts, icons, and navigation should be consistent throughout an application. For example, if you're familiar with Microsoft Word and you start using PowerPoint, you'll notice that the ribbon, tabs, icons, and many of the commands are in familiar locations. You don't have to relearn how to save a file or insert an object because the interface is consistent. If you start using Visual Studio, many of the icons, menus, and keyboard shortcuts are familiar too, because Microsoft follows the same interface convention across all of its applications. Consistency reduces learning time and prevents user errors. It allows users to transfer knowledge between applications. The less users have to relearn, the more productive and confident they become. These principles form the foundation for every interface you will design in this course. As you complete the upcoming design activities, ask yourself whether your interface is organized, readable, consistent, and easy to navigate. A successful user interface is one that users can operate naturally without needing extensive instructions.